What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, the man, the myth, the legend, RizGod, RizGod, baby, bringing you episode 7 of the hottest, most active podcast out there, the RizPod. That's me. You've been here before. This might be your 7th time here. But let's get this show on the road because we have a lot to unpack today. Not only am I joined by one, but not by two, but by 3 guests that you've all seen before. And we're going to talk some NBA basketball. So let's get this show on the road. Adding our first guest is Mr. Adam Alters. Adam, how are we doing?
Doing good, Riz. Thanks for having me back. I feel like we're got 1, not 2, not 3. We look like the Miami Heat out here. Hopefully we can deliver some more chips, though.
And that's exactly what I like to hear. And joining us, me and Adam, at the moment, is someone that we haven't seen since episode 2. Jonathan, what's up, pal? How are you?
What's up, Rizzo? How you doing? Always a pleasure to be talking basketball with the boys, so let's get it popping.
And just like Adam was saying, there's not 1, not 2, not 3, but we're going to deliver a 4th person to the podcast, rounding out the panel, and that's David Treyus. David, how are we doing?
Hey, what's good, RizGod? Glad to be on the show again. Super Bowl's over. I don't know what the Kelseys are doing. I tried calling, still no answer, but hey, my boy RizGod always answers.
This is great. I'm glad to have you guys on. This is a RizPod first, having a stacked panel of 4. I'm really excited to get it started. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We don't really have one thing that we're talking about, but instead, we're just going to be talking about some points that are going to be big key narratives in the second half of this season. So, guys, what better way to start off the pod tonight by talking about something that's pretty relevant, and it's happening tonight. It's Mr. Triple-Double Russell Westbrook making his debut with the Los Angeles Clippers, which he is starting. So how do we feel about the move to LA from one side of the locker room to the other for Westbrook? Do we think this is what the Clippers needed to really elevate them into championship contenders? Or do we think Westbrook's curse is just going to kind of follow suit to the Clippers and really just taint them and their chances?
Well, first, I'm happy that he didn't have to sell his house or buy a new one, so that's good for him. I am of the belief that the Clippers were contenders before this. I said that at the trade deadline episode. I think the Clippers made some great moves that, when you have 2 great guys like PG and Kawhi, adding someone like Russ, who, if he only needs to facilitate and you only need him to do what Russ can do and not have him, take on the load, should be great. I think it makes them even better contenders, in my opinion. Well, we'll get to some of the hot takes later. The Clippers are in it for real. That's my view after this.
Yeah, I think Westbrook, my kind of view on it is I think Westbrook is obviously a great player. He's no longer the Westbrook of old just because he can't really, they're not going to give him the ball as much as he needs to really be effective. But he took a really big decrease in the role with the Lakers. And honestly, he kind of shined. I still think Westbrook, I don't want to say he's a liability because he does everything that you need better than average, but I just don't know how he fits with the Clippers. Obviously, I think he's better than Reggie Jackson. He's better than Bones Highland, right? So, him being the number 1 point guard on that team is good for them. And I think he makes them better in a sense that he's another body that can score. That's going to be harder for the Western Conference teams to guard him. So I think it's good for them. I don't know how far he's going to take them, but I think it's a step up for the Clippers.
I'm not going to lie. I kind of have the counter argument. I really do think that by adding Russ, it really does hurt the Clippers' chances just because of the fact that his basketball IQ, when it really matters most, isn't always there. And that's been something that's definitely been a detriment throughout his entire career. And granted that, the make or break for the Clippers isn't necessarily Russ. It's really just the health of PJ and Kawhi. I feel like that's just a universal fact. But with that being said, Russ does help the Clippers' chances in a way. But if he gets caught up in that lapse where he's like, oh, I have to be the guy, I have to be the one to be alpha dog for this team, then it's not going to work well. The only way the Clippers are really going to make it to the end really depends on what kind of Russ are you getting. Are you going to get the Russ that we saw on the Lakers when he finally accepted that 6-man role, or is his ego going to be inflated now that he's starting again and could feel like MVP Russ from 5 years ago?
I don't know. I think to counterpoint that, I definitely want Westbrook with the ball in his hands with 10 seconds left, shooting 3. I mean, who doesn't want that, Westbrook, right? No, I'm just joking. I agree. I think Westbrook's IQ is going to be a big factor if he's going to feel like he needs to take over games. But I think he's kind of taken that role, at least from the social media posts that the Clippers have posted in the last 2 days. But I think he's bought into the role. So I'm curious to see how he plays into it. Dave, your takes?
I'm just gonna preface this by saying this guy, he's gonna show up to work, he's gonna do his job, and he's gonna give you high energy play. That's great. I'll never dog on somebody who gives their 100%, 110% effort. However, efficiency is a problem. And I understand you're with Paul George now, you're with Kawhi Leonard. Those two, far better shooters than LeBron and AD. So, of course, I think in terms of spacing, it's going to be a better fit for Westbrook. However, Adam said that his main job is going to be to facilitate. That could be his main job, but you need him to do it well. Yes, he's not going to have the pressure of having to score 15 points. He'll still give you those 8 dimes, 7 dimes, but how much will he turn the ball over? If he's going to be their starting point guard, if he's going to be making most of these decisions and trying to get the ball to Kawhi and Paul George, he's going to have to make smart decisions. He's going to have to cut those turnovers down. And for the past 5 years of his career, that has been a huge problem in his game. He cannot protect the ball. And yeah, he's got the knockdown shooters now, but he's still a liability on defense. He doesn't really protect the ball great. And he still shoots 40% from the field and 26% from 3. Those are not beautiful stats, if you wouldn't put it that way. But, this guy's going to give you a boost of energy. However, I don't think it's enough to boost the Clippers into the upper echelon of the West. I think they had something good with Reggie Jackson. He definitely was familiar with the culture of the team. He was an efficient guard. He made smart decisions. When Kawhi and PG sat, this guy somehow turned it up and scored 30. I don't know. So Reggie Jackson was drinking some good water down in LA. But I think it was a good pickup for the Nuggets, too, on the buyout market. Now, my issue with the Clippers trade deadline, I think they did fill out the roster pretty well. I just don't think – I have some questions in how they approached their point guard situation because they traded away Reggie Jackson. They traded away John Wall, who everybody was like, oh, John Wall's in LA, blah, blah, blah. Him, Paul George, Kawhi are going to be a huge big 3. They're going to make the Clippers finals contender. What did John Wall do? Nothing. That's what I think Russell Westbrook's going to do, too. I'm sorry, John Wall, you stay catching strays on the RizPod, but it just has to be said.
Not only did you do nothing on the Clippers, you didn't take a photo with me either. So you truly are a waste of space. So Continue, Dave.
Dave's on fire today. So far.
Yeah.
So, I don't think the Russell experiment's going to work out, but I think it gives them some energy. It gives the team a different, feel. Maybe they needed to jazz it up a little. But to me, Clippers are still the little bro in the West. Whatever position they want to be in terms of first to fourth, they're currently the 4th seed. I still think they could get a nasty matchup in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs because, right now the Lakers are 13th, but they got a new look roster that, I don't think you want to face them in the first round. And there's a lot of other teams in the West that are going to be competing for a bottom 4 seed. So, it's going to be a tough matchup no matter what. And the Clippers got something to look out for.
So, Dave, I kind of want to ask your opinion on it just because you were kind of like on the anti-Russ train. Do we think that Russ doesn't add another threat to the Clippers offense? Like, obviously, he's not the same Westbrook, right? But I feel like what Westbrook adds is a presence on the floor. Like you said, he's a dog. He's a workhorse. He's going to out-rebound. He's going to out-assist. Like, he's going to work for everything that he has. I think what's good to know is he's played with PG before, and he's played with PG when PG was on his MVP season, the best season of arguably his career, and Westbrook was at the top of the table at that point too. Do you feel like PG and like Ty Lue's considered one of the best coaches in the NBA right now? Do you feel like Ty Lue can put Westbrook in situations to really strive? Because if Westbrook is out there with Eric Gordon, with who else is that? Bones Highland, like Marcus Morris, like all these guys that can shoot. Like I can really see him striving and really elevating the Clippers. Do you not feel that same way?
You know, he's been on 5 teams in the past 5 years. It's probably going to be a 6th team next year. He just doesn't fit with anybody. He was with the Washington Wizards and Bradley Beal. That was probably his best season of these last 5 seasons when he was next to Bradley Beal. And Bradley Beal is an excellent shooter, as we know. But, you know, it still comes down to efficiency and smart decision-making. And I need him to play the games and prove it to me before I start thinking, oh, yeah, he's going to make the Clippers a finals contender. I thought the same energy would at least help the Lakers during the regular season, but you know, the regular season is a long grind, and he still hasn't figured it out with the Lakers after 1.5 seasons. Now, the Lakers had a lot of faults on their rosters, but you know, he hasn't figured it out in a lot of spots. So I'm still not convinced with the Clippers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, but I mean, Bradley Beal isn't Kawhi and PG, and you know, the Clippers have filled out their roster so nicely. I mean, as you know, we discussed during the trade deadline, I think even now sending Terrence Mann back to the bench with the second unit is going to be awesome for them. He can play with all those guys, and getting Russ to just have to pass the ball to PG and Kawhi and sometimes drive in for a layup. Like he's going to be able to orchestrate that offense. The chemistry's there. I don't know. I think everything's looking good for the Clips, man. I think everything's shaping up real good, and I don't see them losing to anyone in the first round unless they somehow get matched up with Denver or Phoenix. I think it's theirs for the taking, honestly.
I just want to make a quick comment before you comment on that, Dave. Bradley Beal isn't Kawhi and PG. He's actually better than Kawhi and PG.
All right.
Shout out to him signing my hat, Gator Nation. But sorry, I'll let you kind of rebuttal, Dave, on Adam's point.
Hey, I got nothing to say to that. You already know where I stand. They're still low, bro. I don't think they're going to get anything done.
Oh, they got the Lakers in 4. Get out of here. Lakers in 4.
That's crazy. That's a hot take.
If the Lakers if
it's Clippers,
Lakers,
come on, Clippers need to get revenge sometime, and it is.
They've been getting revenge the whole
maybe in
regular
5.
season. I think the Lakers, if they face them in the playoffs, they're gonna have that hunger and be like, nah.
They're gonna be too
catching
tired.
L's the past 5 seasons. We ain't catching the L in this playoff series, though.
They're gonna be too tired from battling to get to the 7th seed.
yeah, and LeBron's gonna have to overexhaust everything just to win in the play. And I don't like this. Might be another conversation, but I just don't see either how many players the Lakers have to match up with the Clippers. Like who's guarding PG? All right, Jared Vanderbilt. Who's guarding Kawhi? Anthony Davis. That's straight barbecue chicken. So that's Jonathan. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the counter argument to what you just said could be that while they don't have the one-on-one matchups locked down, they have more depth. The Lakers at this point, I feel like, do have more depth than the Clippers. They improved their roster heavily. We've seen it working. I think they've been 3-1 since the trade deadline. And I know like 4 games isn't anything to like go crazy about, but those 4 games were probably the best Lakers basketball games that a lot of people have seen since Russ joined the Lakers. Therefore, honestly, at the end of the day, they do have more depth than the Clippers. And then the only way the Clippers can really elevate to that championship tier is strictly based on Russ's mindset and if they could put him in a 6-man role. We saw him thrive in that 6-man role in LA or on the other side of LA. And if he's starting, I could just see there isn't enough basketballs for all 3 of those guys if they're on the court at the same time. I feel like they have to insert Terrence Mann back into the starting unit. He already has that chemistry down with them. And then have Russ integrate into the system in the 6-man role at first. You know, if you want to try starting him, yeah, do it down the line, but not recommended to start him right away.
I guess the counterpoint that just because of a point you made, I actually disagree. I actually think the Clippers have the best roster top to bottom in the NBA. I mean, you got Russ now, and I think they even still had it before Russ even came. You got Russ, Bones Highland, Terrence Mann, Paul George, Kawhi, Zubac, Marcus Morris, Mason Plumlee, Norman Powell, who honestly should be the 6th man of the year now, Eric Gordon, whoever else I'm missing. Like, I just think they're top. Mason Plumlee, if I haven't said it, top to bottom, they're stacked. And I think they're going to be a contender. Honestly, do I think Westbrook made them over the leap? No, but I think I think the Clippers can very much come out of the West. I don't think it would be because of Westbrook, but he's just another threat out there to have people guard. So ultimately, for me, I think Westbrook signing is a B-. Like, he's good, but I also agree. I think Reggie Jackson fit way better on them. So it's what it is. Any final takes on the Clippers signing Westbrook?
To me, I just think Kawhi and Paul George, you already got two smart decision makers with the ball, two ball dominant players. Why would you turn them into spot up shooters with Russ being the facilitator?
They won't be spot up shooters. They'll have their motion going. They'll be fine. They're not going to ask Russ to do too much. They'll ask him to bring the energy, bring the hustle, bring the spark the team needs.
What they asked John Wall to do, right?
Yeah, but that's John Wall, man. John Wall's like 10 years past his prime, and his prime was like 3 years long. Russ had averaged a triple-double in 3 straight seasons.
I would like to argue that John Wall's prime is now, given that his podcast, the smoke stuff, all the content he's providing is top tier. So, yeah. And we're kind of right on cue. Mr. Worldwide West is FaceTiming us, but we got the RizPod. So anyways, speaking of Worldwide West, oh my God, what great timing. Segueing over to the New York Knicks. Let's talk about the New York Knicks. Do the Knicks really have a shot to do something this season? What do we feel like are the Knicks' floor? What's their ceiling? How do the Knicks compare to these other teams in the East? Are they the real deal? Because they've been playing some pretty good brand of basketball, especially since the signing of Josh Hart. So how are we feeling about the Knicks' chances this season?
We're starting with me again. I mean, I'm not sure about like ceiling. I don't know. I don't think it really changes much with the Knicks. The Knicks are going to be the Knicks. They're always going to be the Knicks, and there's no chance they're coming close to Boston or Milwaukee or even Philly, honestly. They've been playing a lot better. Like, granted, for sure, Brunson's been balling out. Randall's been balling out. Got to give them their props. But they are just that. They're just balling out. Like, they're not a team that I can see going far. They don't have the depth, really. They don't have the talent to compete. I could see them getting their 4 games out of the 4 seed right now. I could see them hitting the 4 seed if they go on a run, but maybe a first round win. I don't see much more than that. But they'll be a top 6 seed. I think that's their floor. I think they're playing good enough for that. I don't think there's really other teams that are going to overtake them. I don't really see them going much further than that.
Yeah, I think I'll kind of comment on it just because I've seen a lot of the Knicks, obviously, being the Knicks fan that I am. I do air quotations because there's always this joke that I like so many more players than I like the Knicks. I think the Knicks are doing something that they haven't done in a very long time, and that's honestly compete in a night-to-night basis and look like a comparable team, like they know what they're doing out there. I still have some issues. Julius Randle just dropped 40 on the Wizards tonight, which is great. I just think Julius Randle being your best player is not going to take you far. I think he's very comparable to like Westbrook in his prime, in a sense that their basketball IQ is terrible. Julius Randle is going to go with that sidestep pull-up 3 over anyone. It's like, why are you doing this? I mean, yeah, it works in the regular season, but we saw what happened when they versed the Hawks a couple years back. He didn't show up. He played like dog shit. You got RJ Barrett, who we have so many moments with him. I got the guy signed a jersey right there. One of the most inconsistent players in the NBA, and I stand by it. One night he'll have 30, one night he'll have like 5. And it's just something you can't rely on. Jalen Brunson, absolute dog. We said it a couple of times on the podcast. One of the best signings in the offseason. He's really came into his own, averaging like 24 points this season. Absolute dog. Should have been an all-star. He is going to be the big difference maker, in my opinion, because when Randall struggles, especially in that playoff series a couple years back, the Knicks had D. Rose carry, and now I think Brunson's going to kind of play in that role. I think the Josh Hart signing is great. I think it adds another facilitator, another rebounder, another shooter, another scorer off the bench. Low key, I think he's going to start starting soon over RJ Barrett with the way RJ Barrett's playing. But I think the Knicks have what they need to get a first round win. I don't know. I think their ceiling is the second round, and their floor is probably losing in the play-in. I think they are a top 6 seed, but I worry a little bit because you got, like you said, the Bucks, the Celtics, the Miami Heat, who's coming. You got a couple of teams in the bottom of the barrel that are still really good, like the Raptors. You got the Cleveland. Like the East is very deep this year. You still got the Nets, who we've had high praises for. So I think it really just depends on the overall team camaraderie because Tibbs loves running his guys to the ground. But I think the Knicks have something here. I think Grimes, I think quickly. I think the Knicks defense is good enough to get a first round win, in my opinion.
I don't know about a first round win. Like you said, it's all depending on who they play in the first round. Philly, Milwaukee, Boston, no chance. If they potentially have a battle of New York with Brooklyn and the Knicks being the 4 and 5 seed, then yeah, maybe sure. But I think another point, and you kind of just alluded it towards the end of what you just said, Rizzo, but it's Thibodeau's coaching style. One thing about Thibodeau's coaching style, and you guys know this. I personally know this as the biggest like D Rose fanboy who saw his favorite player get burned to the ground just off the fact his body essentially failed on him because he was playing so many minutes. And if you look at Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle's minutes, especially lately, they've been averaging nearly 40 minutes a game. And to see that continue during the playoffs where things are intensified, defenses are more locked in, just everything is the regular season except times 100. I could definitely see them falling off. I think at the end of the day, what the Knicks have are solid pieces, and they have shown promise, and they are exciting basketball group to watch. But just who Tom Thibodeau is as a coach is only beneficial for the regular season, which I feel like has carried his career thus far throughout the entire time he's been like a head coach. But with that being said, he has little to no playoff success. So I can't see them making it past the first round, especially in a deep East.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment on Thibodeau. I think Thibodeau is honestly one of the worst coaches in the league. I think he's borderline, not borderline. I actually think he's pretty fraudulent. Like you said, he's had minimal success in his career. He had those great Bulls teams, never even went to a finals. I don't even recall them even making an Eastern Conference Finals. You had the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers running that era. And he's coming to the Knicks. What's great is he'll make one or two guys look like superstars because, like you said, he runs them to the ground. Like those final years he was in Chicago, Jimmy Butler was getting like 42 minutes a game and like looking like a superstar. Not to say Jimmy Butler isn't a superstar, but his stats compared to now are really inflated because he just runs his guys to the ground. I mean, Luol Deng was playing 40 minutes a game for Tom Thibodeau. So
Bro almost died during a playoff game.
Yeah, so I don't like Jalen Brunson and Randall's stats are great, but that's because they play so much more than any other superstar in the league. But yeah, I think if the Knicks had a Quinn Snyder or someone that can actually formulate an offense, because Tom Thibodeau cannot draw up a play. I still recall we were watching it, the Lakers game at MSG, last play of the game. I don't know if he drew the play or what, but he's like, all right, Julius Randle, here's the ball in the wing with 3 seconds, doubled by LeBron and AD. Go do something. Like, what? Like, if he can't do that in the regular season, what the fuck is he going to do in the playoffs? Absolutely nothing. But as a hopeful Knicks fan, Jalen Brunson is going to beat whatever team he faces.
Yeah, I mean, that's more like it. I can't believe you guys are dragging the Knicks all around the floor. Jeez. We're talking about the ceiling? There was an Atlanta Hawks team that made the conference finals a couple years ago. You kidding me? Who had them pegged?
Had to play the Knicks, that's why.
Yeah, so in order for that to happen for the Knicks, I do think a lot needs to break their way because the top of the East is stacked. And I don't think there's anybody that is moving the Celtics, the Bucks, or the Sixers in the first round. I think for the Knicks to get past, they better hope and pray they face Cleveland because that is their best shot of getting past the first round. However, you know, injuries and all this stuff could happen. I think some things could break their way. But I think the Knicks will only go as far as where Tom Thibodeau takes them, as you guys were stating. I have been preaching for the longest time that Tom Thibodeau is one of the worst coaches in the NBA. He cannot formulate an offense, as Rizzo said. That guy cannot draw up an offensive play. Before you guys got Brunson, there was the offense was giving the ball to Randall and letting him do anything. Thibodeau honestly did not draw up plays. He just said, Randall, go ISO. Boom. And that man has one of the worst lineup maintenance of all time. His players consistently get burnt out. it's impossible to deal with if you're a player on the team because you want to play, but like chill, give me some rest.
And I just want to comment on that real quick because it's one thing to like have no depth on your team and you're just running them to the ground. But we have people like Obi Toppin who will play 8 minutes a game, score 10 points in 8 minutes, and you're like, wow, he would be actually really good. Put Obi Toppin in Indiana, and I swear to God, he's averaging 15 to 18 points. But Tom Thibodeau is so brain dead, and he's like, Jericho Sims, Obi Toppin, Jericho Sims is another story. He sucks. But like all these young guys that can put up points, like you'd think he'd play them, but he plays them 10 minutes a game. It's so stupid. But sorry, go ahead. I just needed to point that out. But continue, Dave.
I mean, you're completely right about those things. Like this guy, Isaiah Hartenstein, phenomenal player for the Clippers last year. He's like kind of what you would want in today's league, a 5-man who could defend the inside and who could shoot the three. What is he doing this season? Pass. What is he doing this season? Playing what? 15 minutes a game, stuck behind Jericho Sims in the rotation? When Jericho Sims and Mitchell Robinson are the exact same player? Like, I truly don't get it. And Hartenstein could open up the offense for you guys so much more, but Thibodeau cannot draw an offensive play that he doesn't see it. He doesn't see these things. So I think the Knicks can go far with the Brunson pickup because I think he is a smart lead guard. He makes good decisions. He was exactly what the Knicks needed. I don't think they needed a Donovan Mitchell. I don't think he would have gotten them to the finals or anything because he didn't do that with Utah, and Utah had a great team. But I think Jalen Brunson's a good pickup. I think the Knicks have a bright future with him, but they need to get rid of Thibodeau, man, and maybe make a couple more moves to put them in that tier of the Celtics, the Bucks, the 76ers, because those three teams are the vaunted teams in the East. You do not want to face them.
I agree with everything you're saying. I just kind of want to point something out because I think it's funny that we went about Hartenstein. I'll never forget on a random ESPN game that the Knicks were on, Kevin Harlan was like, Hartenstein is Jokic light. He's got all the intangibles. And you would, mind you, I don't agree. But he can pass, he can shoot, he can drive, he can rebound the ball. Jokic light-esque. You would think that Tom Thibodeau would watch the tape and is like, you know what? I'm going to give this guy some more PT. But instead, he throws out Jericho Sims, who is literally cannot do anything besides offensive rebound and dunk. And we saw what he did in the dunk contest. Absolutely nothing. His dunk package is near minimally nothing. What do you think his bag is when it comes to scoring a basketball? So at least his head touches the backboard, right? And
he got the elbow all the way in there.
He's digging into the cookie jar.
He got the throw too, bro. What are you talking about? They gave
you're
him
right.
5 inches.
No, for sure. Any final thoughts on the Knicks' floor and ceiling in terms of any final thoughts?
I think we got to get Worldwide West back on the phone so we could give him all our recommendations for the team. Tell him to get Tibbs out of there.
I think we should be the GMs. To be honest,
they're higher.
No. Worldwide West knows what he's doing. He's got us. He's got us good. Speaking about Worldwide West, going international, going global. Let's talk about global sensation, Serbian back-to-back MVP Nikola Jokic doing things that has only happened twice and is chasing his third MVP in a row. How do we feel about the number 1 seed Denver Nuggets? Are they actually the real deal? Do they have what it takes to be holding the, what are they calling the finals trophy now?
Larry O'Brien.
Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of it. JT or Adam?
No, go ahead, JT. Go ahead.
I do not think they have enough to contend. I know Jokic is definitely playing phenomenally to average a triple-double as a 7-foot center for the third year in a row is definitely nuts. But with that being said, it's not because of Jokic. I think everyone can agree on that. I think it's just around the surrounding pieces by him. Granted, Jamal Murray is good, but I don't buy into Aaron Gordon's hype. He's having a good season, but I just do not buy into the Aaron Gordon hype. And then Michael Porter Jr. is just way too injury prone for my liking. And to be completely honest, I'm not sure how much depth the Nuggets have at this point. I don't believe it's enough to make them contenders. And then in addition to that, the West is also somewhat as dangerous as the East, just because the teams in the lower part in the play-in contention could definitely rise up. There's just certain factors that have to go into play. Like when Steph Curry comes back, you don't think the Warriors are going to do enough damage to at least make an 8 seed? You know, it could happen. The Warriors could face the Nuggets, and we saw how that went last year, right? Or, for example, if Zion comes back, the Pelicans were the 1 seed for the most part in the early part of the season, just off the strength of Zion, just because Brandon Ingram was also out during the early parts, and they're also in that play-in contention now. Once Zion comes back, I could see them rising. And then the Jazz. No, I can't even say the Jazz, but with that being said, I really do believe they're pretenders and not contenders.
Fair, Dave?
I actually think they could be the real deal this year.
Yeah.
Now, the past 4 postseasons, which are the last 4 years the Nuggets made the playoffs, they lost in the first round last year to the Warriors. They got swept by the Suns in the conference semis. They had 1 appearance in the conference finals in the bubble championship, and they lost to the Lakers. And then they lose in the second round to the Trailblazers in a 7-game series. So those are the last 4 playoff appearances. Now, to me, that gives like Jazz vibes. Like, oh my God, the Jazz always were like one of the top teams in the West, and they never made it through past the conference semis. Now, at least the Nuggets here have a conference finals appearance. But, you know, the bubble championship, everybody's like, oh, can't chalk it up to less games or whatever. I still think it's a legitimate playoff run. I think the Nuggets got it all together this year. Jokic is doing crazy things. The center averaging 10 assists, let alone a triple-double, is insane. But I think he actually has a good starting rotation around him. Like, he's got Jamal Murray. He's got KCP, perfect 3-and-D guard. You got Michael Porter Jr., who could shoot the rock. You got Aaron Gordon, who's taking up tough defensive assignments, and, you know, he's a good rim runner. He could shoot a little bit. He does, you know, a lot of nice things. He could be a good glue guy, but he's better than a 4th option. He's like a good 3rd option for that team. And Jamal Murray finally healthy, I think that's a key thing too. They have some good bench depth. They addressed the backup center with Thomas Bryant. I think that was a good pickup. Bruce Brown, I think, is a great bench guy. I think he could be a crucial playoff contributor. And Michael Malone is a hell of a coach. I think this guy, when it comes to the playoffs, he can outcoach most coaches in the league. I think the Nuggets, they put it together on defense. They put it together on offense. It's up to the point where Jokic is like a top 10 defensive contributor in the league just because of all the players that he plays around. Like that makes the defensive stats of that team so good. So it's tough to put the ball in the basket against them. They could obviously put up points in bunches with Jokic facilitating. I think the Nuggets can put it together this year. I don't think they're gonna do like Portland and have that 1 conference finals appearance and then boom, they're done for the rest of Dame's career. Like, no, I don't think they're that. I think the Nuggets are finally gonna put it together this year. I think they can make a deep run, conference finals, probably the finals. You know, they look legit in the regular season, and I think they could finally be playoff contributors.
And to kind of go along with your point, Dave, I'm more on the sense that I think they're leaning a lot more to contenders than they are pretenders, just from what I've seen. I think something to note is how much production they're getting from their entire roster. Like, you know, obviously when you think about championship contenders, you think of the superstar, which is Jokic, and then you think about 2 guys that are kind of like there, like that can compete. Like for the Celtics, you got Jaylen Brown, and then you kind of got like a whole bunch of guys, Marcus Smart, Derek White, all these guys. With the Bucks, you got Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday. You can go on in the entire league, right? When you look at the Nuggets, you're like, you just got Jokic as your superstar. You don't really have any other all-stars. But you got some pretty darn good players. You got Jamal Murray, who, when extremely healthy, is honestly kind of an all-star. I mean, let's not forget what he did in the bubble against Donovan Mitchell in that series. Jamal Murray can easily put up 20 to 25 a game. Michael Porter, when he's healthy, Mr. 0 assists, is a pure bucket getter. He'll get that ball and put the ball in the hole. He won't pass it to anyone, but he'll get the job done. You got Aaron Gordon, who's having a great season. He's averaging almost 20 points a game. Great 3-and-D player. You had Charles Barkley on fucking TNT talking about that this guy needs to be an all-star. You got KCP, who's a great glue guy. I mean, he was so big for that Lakers team. He was good when he was in Washington. Like, KCP is the ideal role player you want on a championship team. And then the Nuggets really do have depth. They got Thomas Bryant now. You got Reggie Jackson can probably come off the bench. You got Conchar, who's like kind of like, he reminds me of a lot of like Zubac on the Clippers in a sense. Like, he'll do his role. He'll get the rebounds. He's like a hard playing player. I just think the Christian Brown is pretty solid for a young piece. Like, I think they have what it takes. I just look at the West, and I think the West is pretty weak. Like, you look at the people that I think you need to worry about. The Grizzlies, I think the Grizzlies are frauds. Obviously, nobody in the league really likes the Grizzlies just because they're viewing themselves highly. I just don't know if Ja has what it takes when it really comes down to it. The Kings, I think obviously I think they're frauds. The Clippers, they're going to be a tough roadblock. The Suns with KD on paper are going to be a tough roadblock. We'll see how they play. The Mavs, obviously they're going to be in there with Luka's great play. Kyrie, we'll see how that goes. But then the list kind of gets, a little thin. You got the Timberwolves, Pelicans, Jazz, Blazers, Lakers all in there with the Warriors. But I don't know. The Warriors really are a shell of themselves this season. I don't really know if they have the depth or the defense to really compete. So you're really looking at the Nuggets being one of the top 3-4 teams in the West. And I think with how great Jokic is playing, Jokic is a different kind of superstar. He's not someone that's goal is to take over the game. He wants to get everybody else involved. But if he's got to take it over, he will get the job done. I think that makes him so dangerous because nobody's going to focus their defense on Jokic. So I think the Nuggets, I think we were talking about ceiling. I think their ceiling, honestly, is an NBA championship, but their floor is probably losing in the second round. I find it hard for them to lose in the first round because I think they have so much talent. I actually think Coach Malone is a pretty good coach. Offensively, they're one of the best offensive teams. And then defensive rating, they're kind of middle of the pack. So I lean more contenders than pretenders.
I agree with a lot of the points that you and Dave made, Riz. I think maybe just pivot a little bit just to like glorify Jokic for a little bit. This man in yesterday's game, he had 24 points, 18 rebounds, 13 assists on 13 shots, and they beat Cleveland, who is a very good defensive team. This man can take on anyone. He can do it all. Very well deserving of a third MVP. Embiid had a ridiculous game versus Memphis last night. That is an MVP-worthy game, and it's not going to matter because that's just how good Jokic has been. And same for Giannis. Giannis is the best player in the league. It's not going to matter because Jokic has just been doing what Jokic does. I personally don't have the Nuggets winning the finals. I actually don't even have them coming out of the West. Does that mean I don't think they can? No, I think they are legit. They are the team to beat. They're the number one seed, which is why Jokic is extra deserving of the third consecutive MVP. That's all that's really missing is the playoff success. You have to remember Jamal Murray hasn't been there the last couple of years, really. And that's, that could explain their early exits. When you have him back, they've done a great job filling out the rest of the roster. You're right, totally right. Aaron Gordon probably should have been an all-star. I don't know who he would have removed, but he probably should have been an all-star. And MPJ, when he's healthy, is a bucket, like you said. So I don't know, man. There's a lot of room for the Nuggets to excel in the playoffs. I don't think the West is that weak. I think there's a lot of good teams who can make a splash, and then you have like probably 3 teams that are like the contenders in the West. But the Nuggets are definitely one of them, and they're legit. If they come to play and they get some good matchups, man, Jokic, he's going to dominate, and you're going to need some games from your supporting cast, but the Nuggets have been getting that all season. They've won 42 games already. Yeah, they'll be okay. They'll be good, and I think they'll make the conference finals easy. And if they can make the finals, who knows?
JT, I'll kind of let you just kind of wrap it up, just more so because obviously you were the only one to like state that you believe they're more pretenders. What do you see in the Nuggets that maybe we're not seeing that leads you to believe that they're not the real deal?
When I say pretenders, I do see them making it to the second round, but I don't see anything beyond that. And I know the bubble example isn't necessarily the best one, but the points you guys made right about Jokic's production being good were primarily against defensive-minded centers. What about the inverse, where an offensive-minded center goes at him for 48 minutes in a game? Like, if let's say they play the Lakers, right? Can Jokic really handle AD? Come on now, let's be honest. He can't. No shot about it. You don't think that's going to take a toll? And then you also got to consider, like, they do have some X factors just beyond Jokic. Jokic really isn't the issues with the Nuggets. It's how much does the rest of the Denver Nuggets want to show up? Will Jamal Murray's health continue on the path that it's been going? Which hopefully it does. Jamal Murray's a stud, you know? Or will Aaron Gordon's production continue in the second half, or will it fall off? Because I personally had Aaron Gordon on my fantasy teams for years, and bro did not produce. He just did not produce, which is why I sound like a hater, but like he just has not produced the way that I think a team would like. Granted, he is having a good season, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just low-key an Aaron Gordon hater, and then MPJ, his health is a big question mark. Because when he's healthy, you guys are right. He is an absolute gem. Bro is a bucket getter. But that being said, he's been in the league for, I'm not sure, 4 years now, maybe 4 or 5-ish. I'm pretty sure he's been out for almost 2 of those 4 or 5 years. So to just downplay like the concern around his health just because he's having a good season, because last season he was out for the most part, but the season before that he was balling. I feel like not enough people talk about that aspect, but the health for him in particular is a major question mark, in my opinion.
Yeah, we could say that for any team. AD for the Lakers and Kawhi for the Clippers. Like, every team has their injury concerns, and if that can all go away in an instant, I don't know. I just think that Jokic will be fine spreading the ball around, and if he matches up with an offensive center, then Aaron Gordon's a pretty capable defender. Jokic can handle his own. He's boarding up in the playoffs. He averaged 31 points and almost 12 rebounds in the playoffs last year in 5 games, and they will not need him to do that much this year. He's only averaging 25 points a game this year. They will have the surrounding cast around him. So if he can play at like 3/4 of that, the Nuggets they're in for a good time.
And that's a fair.
Go ahead, Casey. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's a really fair point to make. But let's say, and I don't know why, I just have a feeling that I'm primarily thinking the Lakers when I'm talking about this, but Aaron Gordon is a good defender, right? Who's going to guard LeBron?
No one's guarding LeBron.
KCP? Okay. Either way, LeBron or AD will give you an issue. One of them is going to give the Nuggets an issue if that matchup comes down to it at the end of the day.
That's irrelevant because the Lakers are not doing it.
And the 13th seed.
Yeah.
I was
for now.
Don't let them get into the playoffs.
For now.
My one point is when I look at, I think with at least your point with the offensive centers, AD is battling AD, first of all. He needs to be healthy. He needs to be out there playing 35 minutes a game. And before I really see him do that, I'm not even going to think of AD being a factor. And besides AD, or not even the West, just the NBA in general, there is no good centers like that anymore. Besides Jokic and Embiid, you got Kat, who's knocked out. Bam, but he's obviously in the East. Who in the West is going to give Jokic problems as a big man? Domantas Sabonis? No. There's really nobody else. So I think the Nuggets will be fine defensively. Obviously, like you were saying, I think the Nuggets' big issue is going to be the Clippers and the Suns because they lack, not that they lack perimeter defending, but when you got Booker, KD, Ayton, Chris Paul, that's a lot of weapons to guard. And then the Clippers, you got Paul George, Kawhi, Norman Powell. You got a lot of wing players to guard. So I think their issues are going to be guarding perimeter players come to the playoffs. But you never know. It just takes one Cinderella story. If Dirk can win in 2011, fucking anything's possible.
Cinderella story. They're the number 1 seed. They're the best team in the
right.
They're the best team in the West and the third best team in the NBA.
So were the Hawks in 2015, but we saw what happened to them, right?
Yeah.
So
and the Raptors during the LeBronto era. So
yeah.
Not every regular season team is a powerhouse. So.
That is true, but I wouldn't consider it a Cinderella if they.
I wouldn't say
that the finals.
The playoff Cinderella, because they've been upsetting a lot in the playoffs. I will say, they've seen a lot of teams come through for the past 5 years. They know how they play. They know how these players play. I think Michael Malone has seen enough to scheme against certain styles of play that have worked against him. And I think, some players, they have to get past the hump. Giannis was consistently out of the conference semis for like year after year after year.
Yep.
And then boom, the finals run in 2021. He just demolishes every team. Jokic is kind of like that wrecking ball this year. And the Nuggets are 22-0 when this man drops a triple-double. And he's doing that pretty often. Like 22 games out of the 60 or so they've already played. That's insane.
It is insane. So overall, I got the Nuggets. I think they're the real deal. Dave, what are you saying? Pretenders or contenders?
I got them as a contender. You got to watch out for them.
JT, final thoughts? Contenders or pretenders?
I'm still leaning towards pretenders. Not crazy pretenders, but like pretenders, in my opinion.
Add contenders or pretenders?
There's 5 contenders in the NBA. They're one of them for sure.
All right, there you go. So
ask me about the Suns though, and I'll tell you something different.
We all know if it comes down to Devin Booker, what we'll all say about the Phoenix Suns. But let's kind of lighten the mood up a little bit. We're talking about all these contenders. We're talking about all these guys that have what it takes to hold the Larry O'Brien Trophy. How about we talk about something that's maybe more coveted to some people and talk about the bottom of the barrel teams? Let's talk about the number 1 overall pick coming to this NBA draft, and let's talk about this French sensation, Victor Wembanyama. Who do we feel like is going to get the opportunity to have this man on his team? Do we feel like Victor Wembanyama is the real deal? Do we think that he is the next big prospect since LeBron James? Is this 7'4" guy really going to lead a team to the promised land? Or is this all hoopla, all talk? He's going to be the next Kristaps Porzingis and just kind of injure himself and just be a normal guy in this league. Dave, I'll start it off with you. What are your thoughts on Wembanyama? Where do you think he's going? And is he any good?
All right. Wembanyama, this guy, look at all the tape. It's insane. This guy's 7'4". Apparently he grew. He's 7'5" now. Like, shit, I've been stuck on 5'5" for the past few years. But all right, let this kid grow. I think he's good. I think my main concern with him is this man is a stick. And that's kind of the big question we have with all these like 3-point shooting centers. They're all real thin. Chet Holmgren, boom, he can't even play his first NBA game yet. Got Kristaps Porzingis, who's had injury questions in his career. Like, it's just a little iffy to me. And when he's such a good interior defensive presence, but when you get to the NBA, you're playing centers like Joel Embiid. You're playing centers like Jokic. Like, these are heavy dudes who are going to back the ball into you and throw it down. We just saw what the Czech guy did the other day. He demolished the rim on Victor Wembanyama. Like, I think there's a certain infatuation that I'm not totally there yet with Wembanyama. I think he's really good. But for me, if I'm a team, I'm praying to have the second pick just so I don't have to deal with that and have him potentially be a bust, because I think Scoot Henderson is the guy. I think he is a dog. He is one of the best prospects I've seen this year, and I think he's going to be the for real stud. I think somebody should pull a Boston from a few years back when they gave Philly the pick to pick Markelle Fultz because they got Jason Tatum waiting for them at third. I think Wembanyama's good, but I don't want to deal with all the ifs and buts and blah, 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 blah. I think he's great. I don't think he's going to be this franchise changer right away. I think it's going to take a while. I think he needs to put meat on his body. Like, I don't know. I think for him, the best fit for him will be the Spurs, because you learn from a guy like Popovich. I mean, we saw what he did with David Robinson. We saw what he did with Tim Duncan. This guy is a savant with big men. Jakob Poeltl. Like, he unlocked him, all right? I think the Spurs will be a good situation for him to land in. I actually think Houston has a good squad of, like, young players, too. So if Houston could grab him, too, I think that would be a great spot, because you got the guards. You got KPJ and you got Jalen Green. You got some interesting young pieces on that team. Şengün, Wembanyama combo in the front court. You better watch out for that. You're not scoring buckets. But I think there's gonna be. I don't hope this for him, but I think the injury concerns with that real thin frame, it's a little something to balk at.
Riz, I'm gonna hop in there
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
I have the exact opposite take. I've been keeping tabs on Wembanyama for like 3 years now, but like when he was a young boy, only like 7'1". But like it's been the same throughout, man. He's been the number one projected pick for like literally since he was born. He's unreal. Like just like watching some of his games, man. And I really don't think his weight is a problem. He's playing in Euro, like in European basketball, which is pretty physical. Like the refs let a lot of stuff go over there. And he's held his own pretty well. I mean, this year's been ESPN did a pretty good article on him the other day, just like a deep dive into his training and everything. I mean, this whole year has been a developmental year for him. That's basically the entire purpose of why he's on some like low division team in France. He's been his training regimen is like out of this world. His sleep patterns, I've been like tracking how much sleep he gets. Like his health is the number one priority, and understandably so. But he's not shying away from playing in league competition still. Like if the NBA draft is around when the championship will be for his league, and I have a feeling if they're in it, which I don't think they will be based on where they are right now. I think they're like in third in the league. But if he's in it, I think he'll play. Like I think he's just that much of a gamer, that much of a baller that he wants to like play and win, and he has that competitive drive. So I think, I mean, yeah, obviously health is always going to be a factor, but I feel like if anyone's being as like precautious as they can be, it's him and his team, and he just wants to hoop. So I think somewhere like San Antonio would be perfect, and I'm not just saying that as a Spurs fan, but also somewhere like Portland. Like I think they have a pretty well built out team. They're kind of on the bottom. If they get lucky with the lotto, he could do some damage there. And he wouldn't be the focus right away, so that'd be good. A lot of time to develop in the league, get used to the league, and then. I mean, obviously, no one wants to like be in Portland for that long, but I think it could develop there nicely. But we all know Utah's going to end up getting it somehow because that's just how Danny Ainge's luck works. So they'll end up with the number one pick. Walker Kessler will go to the bench, and the Jazz will probably win the championship because that's just how Danny Ainge operates. But yeah, I'm all in on Wembanyama. Scoot's great. Scoot is great. But it's Wembanyama or bust for all 8 teams that are trying to get there, and we'll just see how the lottery works out for them.
Yeah, I think he's obviously a very interesting prospect. I kind of want to just touch on what you said. Walker Kessler, by the way, is having a very great underrated rookie campaign. Oh, yeah. They give up Rudy Gobert for this guy, and he's putting up Rudy Gobert numbers, if not comparable to his DPOY seasons. So
it's not hard to put up Rudy Gobert numbers. The man was averaging like 12 points.
That's true, but he's averaging like 10 points or 12 points, 10 rebounds with 3 blocks. That's Rudy Gobert numbers. And you saw how much the Timberwolves fucking gave up their organization for him. So shout out Walker Kessler doing great things. Victor Wembanyama, I agree with what David was saying and what you were saying, Adam. I don't know if he would be a bust. I think this kid has been in the light for a very long time. There's been so much hype around him for a very long time. I think he's built for the moment and knows what it takes to be like an important figure. Obviously, he's one of the biggest European basketball players in a long time. But I agree with David in a sense. I think it's almost better with whatever team you are to get rid of the pick. I say if you get the first pick, do a Boston move, trade it. Because worst case, he's what everybody expects it. All right, fine. You get 5 first-round picks in the next 5 years. You get 5 other chances just to get some young studs. I think if Wembanyama, you draft him and he's a bust, he's Kwame Brown, you look like an idiot, right?
No, you can't trade this pick. No way.
I think Scoot is such a good player that, I mean, even Brandon Miller in Alabama, obviously besides this crazy shit that's going on with him,
he's legit.
He's him. Dude came out there with all the allegations about him with this gun charge. Came out in college and dropped 41 on a game winner.
Yeah,
like
he's nasty.
In college, that's crazy.
Game tire and game winner.
Yeah, like Brandon Miller, he's the real deal too. So you get him or Scoot. I feel like you don't really lose out there. I think Victor Wembanyama, obviously the guy's insane. He's hitting one-legger threes. He's hitting post fades. He obviously in Europe you can goaltend. This guy's like jumping, taking the ball out the rim. Like this guy's like a fucking 2K video game cheat code. And I don't worry about him guarding people in the NBA because he's going to be a perimeter shot blocker. KP, when he was healthy on the Knicks, was skinny as fuck, and he was getting 3 blocks a game. Like, he could guard. Whatever team he ends up on, he's going to be in a way where he's not be guarding the best player. Obviously, with Embiid and all these guys, like I worry for him because, like David said, some random Czech bozo posted him up and threw it on him crazy. I can't imagine what Joel Embiid would do to this guy. But, he's a young guy. I think Chet Holmgren is something you worry about because the guy didn't even play an NBA game. Whatever, he's out for the season. That could happen to Wembanyama. Like, it's possible. But when I look at what team lands him, I'm going to kind of make a bold prediction. I would love if the Pacers somehow got the first overall pick and this guy landed with Tyrese Halliburton. Right now, the Pacers are around the 12th seed, but they're not far out from being a bottom of the barrel team. I look at all the worst teams in the NBA. You get the Rockets. I think he'd be terrible on the Rockets. I would not want Wembanyama to play with Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. The Rockets just need a whole system change.
They have like a million draft picks coming.
They need a culture shift.
They need a culture shift for a fact. Like Jalen Green, he's good, but he's like playing pickup. Like, Şengün is nice, but I wouldn't want him in Houston. I think Detroit is another one where I don't want him. They got 30 big men there. You got Cade Cunningham, who's a big guard. You have so many young players there. I don't think Wembanyama would fit. I think Charlotte would be a good fit with him if LaMelo stays. Build a great team with LaMelo and Wembanyama. I think that would be great. I think that's probably the more realistic out of the bottom teams. But I think Indiana would be great. You got Miles Turner, who's locked up there. You got Buddy Hield. You got Tyrese Halliburton, who's a stud. I think Wembanyama would fit there perfectly alongside Miles Turner, who will guard all the big people, and then he'll be an off-ball defender. I think that's the ideal spot for Wembanyama. So that's my take. I would love for him to be in Indiana. I think realistically, though, he'll probably go to Houston or Charlotte. Can you imagine he goes on the Lakers? Did the Lakers have a first-round pick? No, right?
It would be. Well, it's the Pelican switch. It's a swap.
Oh, so then Zion, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum are all going to get Victor Wembanyama now. The Pelicans are the new Cleveland Cavaliers. David Griffin or whatever the guy's name is that had all those picks and he pays the NBA on the side, so they're going to get Wembanyama now. Watch. But yeah, I think Wembanyama is going to be good. I don't think he's going to be the next LeBron. I don't think he's going to be the next Luka or I think he's all-star capable. I don't think he's MVP capable. That's just my take. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see a 7-4. Like, my thing with Wembanyama is the league is so predicated on offense. Like, the dude is going to score. I don't know how 82 games is going to treat him. So we'll see. I'd love for him to go to the Pacers. If he goes on the Rockets, though, he's done. But Wembanyama, cool guy. I would trade the pick for more picks and get Scoot and Brandon Miller. That's just me.
Yeah, agree.
I agree. I also got one thing to say. I think a few years back, and Indiana, by the way, would be a phenomenal fit. Him and Halliburton, that would be amazing. I would sign up and watch to see that like every game. I would sign up for League Pass just for that. But at one point, Ben Simmons was a can't-miss prospect. This guy was like the number one guy you wanted on your team. He was going to be transcendental. He was going to be whatever. If he developed a three, he'd be this great-ass player. Where is he now? He's not even getting 20 minutes with the Nets.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that, though. LSU won 8 games in the year that he played. Like, he wasn't trying. He didn't care. He wanted to get paid. He wanted to get his bag. That's it. Wembanyama cares. He wants to win, and he doesn't care where he goes. Charlotte is a good one also because MJ owns the team. I think that might be a nice person to look to for advice when you're the kind of phenom that he is.
MJ gonna tell him shit.
I don't know, bro. MJ doesn't want to win a chip as an owner. MJ hasn't done anything as an owner. His team, the Bobcats, won like 12 games, and then he's done absolutely nothing.
The only thing he's done right is LaMelo Ball. So
yeah, and that's
maybe he's on an upswing. I feel like personally, for the best team he could go on is definitely the Spurs. I know, Adam, you're loving to hear this right now, but where he actually lands, I just have a feeling that the Hornets are going to get him. It's going to be LaMelo and Wemby for the future, and then honestly, if Michael Jordan actually starts caring more as an owner, he could take it far, especially if they get Wemby, trade pieces like Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, send them to like contenders, get more future assets, and then start developing from there.
Yeah, and I do think fit matters a lot too. Just like we're like going to somewhere like Houston, the development is going to be terrible. They have so many priorities. But yeah, going somewhere like San Antonio where they have experience developing big men and doing stuff like that, yeah, that'd be great for him. I think It's all about fit and who gets him.
Yeah, I think San Antonio is a good fit, and they do have pieces. If Wembanyama really is this phenom to contend, you got Devin Vassell, who honestly is having a pretty underrated season. If the Spurs were a lot better, he could be in that conversation for most improved. It's just they're really not doing anything.
He missed a lot of games. He missed
right. Keldon Johnson obviously has been great. You got Trey Jones, a nice young point guard. So like the Spurs is a great fit. I think he can actually take over in San Antonio. I think Charlotte's a great fit, obviously with LaMelo. But I agree. I think Houston, you don't want to go to Houston. Like if Scoot Henderson goes to Houston, God rest his soul. Like him, Jalen Green, and Kevin Porter Jr. are going to be in the strips of Houston. So, and I don't think I am.
They might get Harden. Who knows?
Dude, that would be.
Harden does love Houston, man.
He does love Houston, and we know why. So
yeah, we all know why.
Detroit, I think, would be a loaded backcourt or a loaded front court. So I don't know. I would love Indiana, like we said. I think that's genuinely the best fit. Great rim protector, Turner. Great shooters around him, and then Tyrese Halliburton, pass forward point guard.
Why has no one suggested the Warriors getting him? Come on, they're the 10th seed. What's going on, people?
We want to have fun and not be sad for them.
God, if he went to the Warriors with Steph Curry, I would actually be super triggered.
That'd be fun.
He wouldn't even get Steve Kerr would. Well, maybe he would get playing time. But yeah, all right. Final thoughts. Let's make this interesting. Wembanyama, MVP. Do you have him more closer to MVP or bust, David?
I mean,
that's crazy.
You're acting like there's a fine line between it. I think it's more so in the middle. I think, like you said, all-star, perennial all-star. I think he can make multiple all-star teams. I don't got the MVP in his future, but who knows? I don't think he's an MVP.
All right, so basically in the RizPod, we want the hard, cold truth. So you think he's going to be a bust more than he is an MVP?
Let's get it. Bust.
All right. JT, MVP or bust for Wembanyama?
Not gonna lie, I was kind of gonna say what David just said, but I guess honestly, more I guess in this scenario where there isn't like the middle line, towards bust, not because he's actually a bust, just because like the centers that win the MVP nowadays, which is really just Jokic, he has to do phenomenal things. Like he has to stand out from the rest of the pack. He has to be averaging at least a triple-double. I don't know if I could see Wembanyama getting 10 assists. He'll pull the boards, he'll get the points or whatever, but to establish yourself as that MVP, it takes a lot. And I don't know if, at least in terms of the passing area, if he could live to like the tier of like a Jokic, or I guess yeah, a Jokic.
I will go and I'll let it finish off to Adam. I'm going to lean he's closer to a bust than an MVP. Obviously, this is such two drastic things, but I think it adds a little fun to the pod. So I'm going to go with bust. And to wrap it off, we're going to go to the guy that studied Wembanyama ever since he came out the womb, and Mr. Adam Alters. Where do you have Wembanyama?
MVP, man. Like, what else is there? Like, how do we keep doing this, especially to European players too? Luka was traded for Trae Young. Can we imagine that? Like, that is absurd because he was European and people had like doubts about him coming to play over here. Like, I guess his weight maybe was a problem then too. I don't know. Like, we keep doing these to these all-time great prospects, and they keep delivering for the most part. Like, yeah, Ben Simmons, I wouldn't call him an all-time great prospect. He was the number one consensus pick, but like he wasn't like the best prospect we've seen since the birth of Jesus Christ. Like,
I don't know about that. Like, he wasn't a great prospect, but at the time there was the hype. There were the LeBron comparisons were real. We saw them posting IG photos of them working out together. So
he was the consensus number one pick for sure. Like he was the pick that you should have taken there, but he wasn't on this level. Like I do agree that the bar to win an MVP will probably be higher for him. So it'll be the same with LeBron. Like LeBron only has 4 MVPs. He's been the best player in the league for 20 years. He should have more than 4 MVPs. But it's just kind of fatigue and all that stuff. So I think the expectation is higher on Wembanyama. So maybe the bar will be higher for him to clear to win an MVP. But he's gonna have success in this league for as long as he's in it, in my opinion, just based on what I mean, come on, he's taking 1-foot floaters from like
3.
Yeah, from like 5 feet behind the 3-point line and splashing them. Like that's his skill set is ridiculous. He operates as Kevin Durant, but like taller and probably a better defender. Not as smooth in the mid-range, not as big of a knockdown shooter, but like that's a very good comparison that I could see in terms of, lanky skill set, because he can handle the ball. He can do it. He can do anything you ask him to do, and he's going to do everything for whatever team that goes to him that is completely bare bones. It'll take a few years like LeBron, but he's going to get one, maybe two, maybe three, maybe four.
Yeah, Wembanyama reminds me a lot of me in high school during pickup gym. So long, lengthy, and can get buckets at will. Am I right?
Sure.
Yeah. So with that being said, that was a great conversation. I think it was a lot of variety in terms of Wembanyama. Something I'm really excited to do, and what's going to wrap up the pod on this segment, is something that I want everybody to kind of bring, and that's bold predictions for the second half of the season. Obviously, with All-Star break being over, this is the final stretch of the regular season. We got the playoffs coming soon. What do you guys think? And it could be really anything. It could be a player. It could be a team. It could be who's winning the chip. Whatever it is, what's your bold prediction that's going to happen in this second half of the NBA season? Does anybody want to volunteer to go first? All right, Dave, take it away.
All right, my first prediction, I got two lined up. I think, for one, I got a third-seeded team right now not making the playoffs. The Kings are frauds. They're third seed right now, looking like their best season since early 2000. Yeah, they're not making the top 8. I got that. And my second one is, I think the Phoenix Suns are not going to make it past the second round in the NBA playoffs. I think they're frauds too. I don't think they're going to match up well with all these teams in the West that are just hungry, that bring good defense, that when the game shrinks in the playoffs, they're going to bring it even more than the Suns. I think they're frauds just like the Kings. So those are my two takes.
That's great. I kind of want to just touch up on your takes before we kind of go around all full circle. The Kings being not in the playoffs, or at least, not making it in the first round after playing, I don't think that's too far-fetched. I think they're playing great regular season basketball, but compared to all these other teams, I can very much see them falling out. De'Aaron Fox, all-star season. Sabonis, all-star season. You got a good crew around them, but I could see them going out of it. The Suns, which I am a certified Devin Booker hater. I hate the Phoenix Suns. They've costed me money. They can kiss my ass. But I will say, ever since Kevin Durant's come to Brooklyn, and I've seen this man live, Kevin Durant is one of the best players of all time. Dude is a stud. He was an inch away from sending Giannis packing and winning another chip by himself in Brooklyn. I think Kevin Durant, and I'll talk about this, it's not really a hot take, but I think he's going to fit well with the Suns. I think the Suns are going to excel. And I honestly think Kevin Durant might etch his ticket for another NBA championship. But that's just my take. I think Kevin Durant's really going to elevate the Suns.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't think they got the defensive depth for that, but yeah, continue. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think the Kings point, I think they'll make the playoffs. I have enough faith that they'll make the playoffs with another 25, 22 games left, something like that. I think they'll get in there. Do I see them having success in the playoffs? No, not really. I think they've played well enough to earn it, and I think they're good enough to get into the playoffs. But yeah, I wouldn't be super surprised if they missed out just based on how close all the teams are in the West. It only takes a string of 5 losses in a row to send you out. Phoenix, it is conflicting because I don't see them leaving the West, because I agree with you. I don't think they match up very well. I also don't think they'd win the chip because I think Boston's going to the finals, and I don't think they'd match up very well with Boston. But I do see them having some level of success. I don't know if they have enough time to gel everything together. But Kevin Durant's not going to let them lose that early in the playoffs. Like Rizzo said, he's too good.
Got swept in the first round.
True. Very true.
That is true. But I think a lot of that, he lost game 1 to a buzzer beater, and then everything just kind of spiraled ever since, with just injuries and just everybody. But, yeah, that's true. But listen, if they won game 1, which obviously it's a lot of ifs, I think they make that series competitive.
For me, in terms of the Kings take, I wouldn't be surprised to see Sacramento fall out of the playoffs, just because I think the last time they made the playoffs, we were all 4 or 5 maybe max. And then, but I do believe that we should give them some more credit just off the fact that Domantas Sabonis is having a very underrated year. The only reason they made this turnaround was because he got added to the team, if we're going to be completely honest. So that's my thought on that. And then crazy enough, I also had two bold predictions, right? And my second one was word for word, Suns will not make it past second round. I swear to God. I had the same thought idea. I just can't trust in Devin Booker and CP3, especially after Luka pretty much violated their whole existence last playoff season. And I think another aspect of that conversation that hasn't been brought up, KD is a stud. No one is taking that credit away from him, but his injuries do concern me because really, I have not seen anyone talk about this. He's currently 34 years old, right? He's had a decent number of leg injuries throughout his career. 2019 finals, the most obvious one, out for the next whole year of 2020. He's had some nagging knee and leg injuries throughout his time in Brooklyn. I feel like we can all agree the minute he's been out during his tenure in Brooklyn is when shit hit the fan, right? And then in addition to that, everyone forgets he had another leg injury, I think, in 2015. So you add that toll up, it's gonna affect you, especially at 34 years old, where while he's not out of his prime or anything by any means, he is starting to get older, and age does play a role. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
Liz Frank injury in OKC was terrible for him, and it kind of like led everything to spiral. But this man KD, in that series when he was with Golden State and they went to the finals back to back, he was their best defender. He was locking down LeBron James. As you get older and as you pick up more and more injuries, you don't have that side to side mobility. You lose some of that, and he's not the defender that he used to be. Now he's not going to guard the top perimeter threat. He's not going to guard the top player on the opposite team. I don't think so, or at least he's not going to do it as well as before, just because he lost the steps, he lost the mobility, and he's going to try to conserve as most energy as he can for the offensive end, which is the end that he is better on. So, like, why would you waste your talents playing defense and risk injury playing defense? So, yeah, I agree with you on that, JT.
I want to go ahead, JT.
Sorry, I was just going to add on to David's point. When at this point, if Torrey Craig is your best like forward defender, right? I think you're kind of in trouble. Let's be honest. Like, who do the Suns have for defense at this point?
Nobody.
Exactly.
My thing with the Suns is they were never really predicated on a specific defender. I think they played team defense. And Mikal Bridges said this in an interview with the Nets. He was saying, like, they don't have me there to pick up the slack defensively, but KD can hold his own. CP3 can still play defense. The way that Monty Williams has that Phoenix Suns team, I think they'll be fine. I just think, and about the Kevin Durant injury, that's the point I wanted to make. I think the way that Kevin Durant's built, the way that his offensive style is, he can have 30 more leg injuries, and I think he'll be fine. He's not predicated on driving. He's not predicated on elevating more than you. The guy's wingspan itself will shoot over anybody. The guy has a beautiful mid-range. He had one of the best offensive seasons of his career efficiency-wise. Dude was shooting almost 60% from the field. And he's taken mid-ranges, threes, turnarounds, floaters. Like, he's not DeAndre Jordan just dunking the ball. Like, that's insane. Granted, now he's going to play with Devin Booker, who can play off the drip or, like, off the ball, can facilitate. Chris Paul, like, the Suns are going to be a problem. And honestly, the only team I genuinely think that can stop them is the Clippers, because the Clippers match up so well against the Suns. And I don't know if the Suns match up well against the Clippers. That's the only team that I really see causing the Suns trouble, because I think they run through the Nuggets. I think they run through, like, maybe the Grizzlies would give them some trouble because Ja is so explosive. But I really think the Grizzlies, I'll get to the Grizzlies, but I don't really see the Grizzlies going anywhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it really just depends on when they play the Clippers, in my opinion. I agree with you.
All right, so that's David's bold takes. JT, I'm going to let you kind of go over, just because you kind of agreed with David as that being one of your takes. What was the other take that you had?
The other take, and David's also going to like this one, but I have LA or the Lakers ending the season as the 5th or 6th seed. Just because, um, like I mentioned before, they have an improved roster, a stronger, much stronger supporting cast that really does meet the needs of LeBron and Anthony Davis in terms of just overall spacing. And then if you currently look at the standings right now, 7th through 10th seed, Minnesota, New Orleans, Utah, and the Warriors. Before I even get into that, the Lakers from the 5th seed are only 4 games out, and there's 22 games left. Who's to say they can't go on, I don't know, 6 to 8 game winning streak, cut that gap down a little bit? Who's to say that isn't going to happen or can't happen at this point, especially with them finally addressing LeBron and AD's needs? And then, in addition, you look at 7 through 10 right now. Timberwolves, first and foremost, they're definitely going to decline. I feel like their roster did take a hit following the trade deadline with sending D'Lo to LA, and they got back Mike Conley, but Mike Conley's old as shit now. Let's be honest. And then, in addition to that, Cat's return time is only between the last 10 and 15 games of the regular season. That's not even a guarantee at this point. So who really knows about them? I just feel like the Jazz are going to fizzle out just because they don't have enough on the team. Like, they have Lowry, who's been balling. They have Walker Kessler, defensive anchor, and they have Jordan Clarkson, who's been like decent. It's very, very good. I wouldn't put like all-star on him or anything, but I do see them fizzling out second half of the season. The Pelicans, they could drop just because no one knows when Zion is returning right now. We know the impact Zion has if he's healthy, but that's always been the biggest question mark for his career. And in addition to that, no one really talks about this enough, but can Brandon Ingram also remain healthy? You know, he's had his fair share of injuries, especially this season. If he goes down, I could see their performance definitely taking a hit. And similar situation with the Warriors, they could definitely go on the rise, but it all depends on Steph Curry. Steph Curry for the Warriors is the make or break at this point. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess my counterpoint, not even a counterpoint, I just want to hear more insight. You say the Lakers are going to finish top 5 or top 6. Do they carry that success in winning a playoff series, or do they just kind of fizzle out when it comes to that?
It depends on the first round matchup. Like, if the standings are what they are, except you have the Lakers as the 6th seed, they would be playing the Kings. I could see them taking the Kings. But Memphis, you guys know I love Ja Morant and stuff, so like I'm kind of biased towards the Grizzlies, but I'm not sure if they could take on the Grizzlies. The Nuggets are definitely balling, but as we mentioned earlier when we were talking about them, I could see them beating the Nuggets. I really could see them beating the Nuggets. And then if they're the 5th seed, if they're playing LA or Phoenix, that's a different question. I don't know about getting out of the first round, but considering they're the 13th seed, and if they could somehow make it a 5 or 6, I'll take that as a W. So,
all right, fair enough. Adam, Dave, any thoughts on Jonathan saying that the Lakers are going to finish top 5 or 6?
I know Dave agrees, so yeah, you go, Dave. I know you agree.
I love it. Give me anybody in the first round. Shit, give me a team out the East. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think I do agree. LeBron's not going to let them miss the playoffs entirely. I think they'll make it to the play-in. I think there's some weak teams in front of them that they can get ahead of. But past that, I think they'll probably win the play-in game because, again, LeBron won't let that happen. They really have to get like a crazy good matchup for them in the first round to do anything. I don't really see them getting to the 6th seed. Yeah, it's possible. There's so many teams in front of them that have to lose. Like you listed out all the teams, and not all of them are good, but some of them are going to win. Like some of them are going to win games. So I don't know. But my hot take is, I guess, kind of similar. So I don't know. I think I don't think it'll happen. I really don't. They did improve at the trade deadline, but
I'll just kind of finish off your take just because I think this Lakers team is so much better constructed for LeBron's play style. Definitely. You got Malik Beasley, who just had a great game against the Warriors. You got D'Lo, who can shoot, who's honestly been playing really well for the Lakers. AD obviously is AD when he's healthy. When he's not, he's just street clothes Anthony Davis. Vanderbilt's a great pickup. I think Obama's been decent. Like, I think this team is a lot better for LeBron. But I think for everything to go to happen for them to be a 5th or 6th seed, you're going to need Minnesota, who's honestly, with Anthony Edwards as their sole star, has been playing really good. Utah, who's been getting the job done. Portland is still there. Like Adam said, there's so many teams in front of them for that to happen. I will say, and this is going to coincide on my hot take, which I'll wrap the podcast with. I won't go too much in it. If the Lakers make the 6th or 5th seed, I can very much see them making it past the first round. I just don't think they'll get there. But if they do, I can see them win a round.
That's
But I'll kind of let you go with it. You seem like you have a take that you're ready to share, so take the floor.
So I have the feeling yours is top of the West related, right? I think that's what yours is. Because I have a similar take to you on that one. But for the one I'm gonna go with here is more similar to John's. I think that I got Portland winning a first round series in the playoffs. They are a half game ahead of the Lakers right now, so still have a lot of work to do to get in the playoffs. But their schedule coming up is pretty favorable. They play a lot of crappy teams. Dame is clearly in his bag right now. Rap game, ball game, everything. He's on it. It feels like a lot of good team chemistry. The Matisse Thybulle trade is pretty underrated in terms of how it'll impact them defensively if he gets consistent minutes. They have just a super athletic team. Obviously, that's the Simons injury. I think if he comes back and he's good as new, that won't be a problem. Nurkic, I'm not really sure what's going on with him. I did list Portland as my biggest disappointment at the trade deadline for getting rid of Josh Hart. However, I just feel like they're in the zone. There's some good team chemistry going on. Chauncey has been in this position before as the head coach. They have a fairly easy schedule coming up for the rest of the season. And yeah, only 5 games separating them. No, not even. Yeah, 5 games separating them and Sacramento with a 3 seed. With their easy schedule, they play the Kings a few times, I think. Anything can happen, and I think if they get into a good enough position, they match up pretty well with a lot of teams in a series, and we know how clutch Dame is. They're winning a first-round series. Thoughts?
Yeah,
I like it.
It's a take, and I think it's going to go a little bit with what my take's going to be. Portland, obviously, when you got Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, like they got the guys to get it done. It just matters. Like, do you think that they win a first round series regardless of seeding, or do they have to make that 5th or 6th seed in your opinion?
If they're the 8th seed, I don't see them winning. Although their series with Denver would be awesome because we've seen that before, and we know how all the star players will come to play for that one. I think they are. I don't know where Phoenix and Dallas are gonna end up in the standings. If they avoid Phoenix, free game. If they avoid Phoenix and Denver, and I guess the Clippers, because I've said that before. Those 3 teams, those are my 3 contenders in the West. They avoid them in the first round, they're winning the series.
You think it could beat Dallas?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Luka's not letting that happen.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Luka's not letting that happen. That man is fucking him.
Dame versus Luka will be crazy.
That would be
that team is
amazing.
just Luka and Kyrie. Luka's gonna put the team on his
the map's
back.
a fraud.
Look what Luka did last season, man.
Agreed.
With more depth, though.
But I don't know. But Dame is one of the most clutch players in the league. I mean, we've seen that time and time again. So I certainly wouldn't count him out in any close game or series.
And let me just counterpoint to that. Dame's clutch. You got Luka, who's already clutching himself, and now you got Kyrie Irving.
Yeah,
so
no doubt. But they might not play Dallas.
That's true. They might not play Dallas. But yeah, I think it's a good take. Honestly, I was gonna say I actually think the Lakers have a better chance of winning the first round or getting out the first round than the Blazers do. I have more stock in LeBron than I do.
Yeah, that's just the LeBron effect. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
But I don't think their team is as good as Portland, honestly.
Oh.
That's
Stop
interesting.
The
All right.
That was a hot take.
I'm coming with the bold. She said bold prediction.
Yeah. David, Jonathan, any final thoughts before I make my hot take?
No, King, go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, all you, bro.
So to wrap this off, we kind of are all on the same page, which is kind of like, damn, like this is not my star moment or anything. Before I make my hot take, though, we did mention something on the podcast, which I will retract. This Brooklyn Nets team that we were saying that might win a first round game or a first round. looking at them now losing by 50 to the Bulls and their recent stretch of not scoring, I do want to retract that statement. I like this team a lot. I think they can defend. They got a lot of great pieces. But come playoff season, when they need a go-ahead bucket, Spencer Dinwiddie, I don't know what the fuck Jock Vaughn did to this guy, but he's afraid to shoot the basketball. Mikal Bridges dropped 45. So, like, it's possible that he can take over a series and develop as a player, but I retract that statement. I think the Nets would probably lose in 5, if that, to any team. But anyways, just wanted to say that. My hot take is 2 of them. One of them, which I'm going to go a little lightly, I don't think the Warriors make it out the play-in. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And I also don't think they make it out the play-in. I think this Warriors team lacks a defensive mindset. They are no longer a great defensive team. Steph Curry's already facing a lot of injuries. You got Jordan Poole, who cannot play defense at all. Klay Thompson's not the same defender. Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins, if you're counting them two to really pick up the slack. Obviously, they did it last season and they won a chip. Kudos to them. But Wiggins is a shell of himself to what he was last year. And Draymond Green is still not the same player that he is. Obviously, you lose depth. Gary Payton's hurt, who's probably a pickup glue guy on defense. And then you just got a whole bunch of rookies, young players like Ty Jerome. I mean, DiVincenzo's not young, but, DiVincenzo, Moses Moody, Kuminga, coming off the bench. I just don't really see them lining up with a lot of the lower teams. Like, I think the Timberwolves are better. I think the Pelicans are better. I think the Lakers are better. I think there's a lot better teams than the Warriors. So that's my first one. I don't think they make it out of the play-in. My next hot take, which is kind of going aside what you guys are saying, I don't know who the top 3 seeds of the West are going to end up being, but I think one of them are going to fall. I don't know who exactly. Honestly, depending on how it matches up. You got right now, it's the Nuggets, Grizzlies, Kings, with the Clippers right there, the Suns right there, obviously the Mavericks. The West is very close, which is why I think a top 3 seed doesn't advance. I think the Grizzlies have high potential to not make it out of the first round. They're well coached, very deep, very gritty team. I just think they have a target on their back. Like, it's very possible that the Grizzlies face the Suns in the first round, face the Clippers, face the Mavericks. Like, the West is so close that the standings are not set in stone. Like, I can definitely see the Grizzlies losing. Obviously, the Kings can lose. Like, maybe even the Suns lose. My hot take is a top 3 seed in the West is going to get bounced in the first round. And we all kind of have that same feeling because obviously we have the Lakers winning a series. We have the Blazers winning a series. My hot take is I think the Grizzlies get bounced in the first round, but just a top 3 seed in the West in general won't make it out of the first round.
So Ja is not okay in the West, is what you're saying?
He is not okay. Definitely not. I swear to God, I will. So I don't mean to cut you off, but if Luka versus the Grizzlies, I promise you they're going to have fits.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree with you, actually. I don't see Memphis going very far. I think it depends who they play in the first round, obviously, to see who they get out. But yeah, I don't see them going very far at all. I agree. Ja is not fine in the West. No disagreements there. I don't think Denver's losing their first round series no matter what.
I don't either.
But going to the Warriors take, which I think is interesting. I think they'll win the play-in game with a healthy Steph. They'll win the play-in. I don't really see them going much further than that though. So I think we're thinking along similar lines there. I just think they're kind of old. It's just going to be kind of a letdown year after everything that they took last year, or all of that, like what it took for them to get there last year. They're just kind of spent. And even if they're all healthy, I don't know. I just don't see it.
And I just want to make a quick point, just so if JT or Dave, you want to comment. You look at the teams that are in the plan right now, the Timberwolves, I actually genuinely think with Anthony Edwards being at the helm of this Timberwolves team has an identity. Anthony Edwards is pretty good. You got Jalen McDaniels, who's a lockdown defender. He's going to be guarding either Steph or Klay alongside Anthony Edwards. Rudy Gobert is Rudy Gobert. You can count on him for one game. I think he can get the job done. And then you just have a whole bunch of role players that are pretty good. Naz Reid's pretty good. I think his name's Josh Powell, some guy off the bench. He's pretty good. I think the Timberwolves have an identity to be good enough. You got Cat coming back soon. The Pelicans were the number 1 seed in the West, and now that they fell, you got CJ Zion, Jonas, Brandon Ingram. I think they'll kill the Warriors. The only team that I think the Warriors have a chance is against the Jazz or the Thunder. But honestly, I'm picking the Jazz over the Warriors because I think Laurie, who's going to go? All right, you guard Laurie. but Jordan Clarkson's there. I don't know. I just think the Warriors don't match up well defensively against anyone.
Interesting. I think if the Warriors do make the play, because I think you bring up an interesting point. I think they very well could lose. But if they do make the play-in, I think they could be the team that kicks the Grizzlies out in the first round, just because we've seen those matchups. We see how Clay turns it up when Dylan Brooks starts chatting, and that's all Dylan Brooks does is chat because he cannot play ball. So I think if the Warriors play the Grizzlies, sign me up for a ticket. I'm watching that game. I'm going flying out. I don't care where it is. That's a game to watch.
Sorry, I hate Dylan Brooks, so I just had to put that.
A lot of enemies on the pod so far.
Yeah, John Wall, Devin Booker, Dylan Brooks. You can all get the fucking smoke. So.
Y'all know who you are.
He's writing the list down, bro. That's crazy.
All future guests.
Dylan Brooks. Yes, all future guests. Tap the fuck in, man. And to continue.
That's all I have. Fuck Dylan Brooks. Yeah, good way to end it.
JT, your final thoughts?
For me, I agree with the point that I could definitely see one of the top 3 seeds in the West getting bounced out, just because the West or the NBA as a whole is pretty diverse now. It's like the standings are just so close to each other. You can't pinpoint one particular team stepping above the rest. So to that, I'll give you your credit. But the Warriors, man, I don't know. To say they're not even going to make the playoffs or the play-in. Think about it now, especially with this GP trade, right? I'm pretty sure it went through, correct?
Yeah.
With that in mind, the only difference between the championship team that won last year and this current team is Otto Porter was switched with Dante DiVincenzo. That's it. And honestly, you get a healthy Steph, and we know the Warriors can make runs. They've been in this position before where you sleep on them, they will show you why you shouldn't sleep on them and will shut you up instantly. That's just who they are at this point. So with that in mind, especially I don't know, it was last year's championship that really told me never sleep on the Warriors. Don't sleep on the Warriors until it's all said and done. And I just feel like this could potentially be one of those instances where they just pop off once Steph comes back, which is hopefully soon because they definitely need him back. What is that? 23 games left to go for their season. Definitely need him sooner rather than later. But with that being said, don't sleep on the Warriors.
They're just so bad on the road.
Yeah, that's another thing. They are so bad at the road, which is why
7-23 on the road.
Yeah, that's tough. Which is another point that I wanted to bring up. I just don't know if they win the games games to really.
Yeah, and on the road, and if they're the lower seed, they'll be on the road. So any game 7 is on the road. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing is, right? It was your point, Rizzo, more or less them just making the playoffs or going above and beyond? Because if you're talking about above and beyond, then yeah, I'm with you guys. Like I don't know if they could really go above and beyond, but
I don't think they make a top 8 seed. Essentially, I think they get out in the play-in.
So if they can't go from 10 to 8 or 10 to 7 when they're a half game out of those spots and they have home court for the play-in, you don't see them making the playoffs?
I don't. I mean, it's like I said, it depends who they match up with because that's all it comes down to. But I honestly don't think it's the Warriors' year at all this year.
Okay.
All right. Well, with that being said, this was another great episode. The first episode with a 4-person panel. I'm really excited. We covered a lot of different topics, a lot of different segments. Something new to the pod where we just didn't have one thing that we stuck to the whole time. Obviously, thanks to you, Adam. Thank you, JT. Thank you, David, making your guys' second appearances. David and Adam being back-to-back. So before I really make my closing thoughts, any final things you guys want to say to the pod? The floor is Adam. I'll let you go first.
No, I appreciate you having me on, Riz. It was a good time. If we come back, we got the 3-peat. We can do a 3-peat, but we'll see what the topics are. But had a great time. Had a great time chatting ball with the boys, as always.
JT?
Always a pleasure talking basketball with the guys. Thank you for having me back on your platform, and fuck Dylan Brooks. So yeah.
Dave, wrap it up.
Yes, sir. Good looks for having me on the best, hottest pod on the streets. Let's fucking go. The next 4-person panel I do want to see though is you, Dylan Brooks, Devin Booker, and John Wall. So if y'all can get
You
that
know
going,
what
that'd be
is
great.
so crazy, David? You read my fucking mind because the next time I have a podcast, you will see me, John Wall, Devin Booker, and Dylan Brooks all going at it. Me proving to them why they all fucking suck. With that being said, it's your boy, the man, the myth, the legend, RizGod, signing out for episode 7 of the RizPod. Love you, fellas. See you guys for episode 8.